Hello friends, brothers, and fellows, and welcome to Inside the Lodge. I'm sorry about that last video. If you've seen it, it was probably pretty boring. It's going to be titled The Secrets of Masonry, but it's not really secrets, because I can't tell you the secrets, and only about 15% of what we do is a secret. This video is going to be partly about Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and also clandestine, irregular, and female Masons. So let's dive on in. And I'd like to start with saying, when you join a Facebook group for Freemasons, chances are good there's not going to be all Masons. It's going to be clandestine, irregular, and just people who are pretending, flat out. So when you're in those groups, you need to be very careful with what you say. You need to stop, and you need to be well informed if you're going to stick your nose in what those people are talking about, because especially on Facebook, they will not act like your brother. And part of that is because they're clandestine or irregular. Part of it is because they're just not the best people a lot of times. One of the admins in a group attacked me for standing up for regular Masonry. Apparently he's part of an irregular lodge, or as we call it quite often, clandestine. And, you know, he's an admin on this group of like 17,000 people. There are women in this group, and I'm sure, as everybody knows, women can't be Freemasons. We're going to cover that today. I'd like to talk a little bit about irregular and clandestine lodges. Clandestine lodges are lodges that are chartered under a Grand Lodge that is not an actual Grand Lodge. It is, it can be a lodge that either follows or does not follow the actual bylaws of actual Masonry. So they could follow it to a T, but because they don't have a real charter, like this one up above me that I sit under in all of the videos, their charter is from an irregular Grand Lodge that is not recognized and does not have fraternal correspondence with other actual Grand Lodges. Thus, it is an irregular Grand Lodge, and they are a clandestine brotherhood. Now, if they do not follow regular Masonry rules, edicts, and bylaws, I would call that, it's still clandestine, but I would rather call that an irregular lodge, because, I mean, well, I'm not really sure why I do that. Clandestine can be either, but I guess irregular kind of is hands down, flat out. You know something's wrong, and they don't care. Clandestine can follow it to a T, but they might not be chartered correctly, and then they're clandestine, and then you can't talk to them, even though they've been through their 3 degrees, done everything you've done. Maybe even they had to work harder than you did for it. Probably not, but you know, if they did, you still can't converse with them, and it's probably not their fault. They didn't know that they were joining an irregular lodge. This is something that you need to check before you petition for membership. This lodge is 214. I'm not going to really say the name of it because it's the name of the city I'm in, and I don't want to share that. Do I want to do that? Probably not. I might let it slip in a different video. You can probably find it. I don't know if I've said it yet. But this is a regular and legally constituted Master Masons Lodge chartered under the Grand Lodge of North Carolina. We have fraternal correspondence with every other Grand Lodge in the United States, most Prince Hall lodges in the United States, and every country's major and regularly constituted Grand Lodge, such as the Grand Lodge of British Columbia, the Grand Lodge of England, the Grand Lodge of California, the Grand Lodge of Texas, the Grand Lodge of Virginia. I had to call the Grand Lodge of Virginia the other day because my stepdad thinks his paternal grandfather was a Shriner. So I'm allowed to call. I can talk to those Grand Lodges and, ask questions about past members. We can do that. We have fraternal correspondence. But you can't do that with irregular lodges because it is prohibited. You cannot sit in a lodge or converse upon the secrets of Masonry with an irregular or clandestinely made Mason, or one under one under, I can't think of the word, suspendence. One that is suspended, you can't sit or converse upon the secrets of Masonry. So that would include irregular or clandestinely made Masons. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. They think that if you call it Freemasonry, then that's good enough. So we're going to get into this thing that I've written out, and I'm just going to go on in. I'm going to have to be reading, so I'm not going to be really looking at the camera, so let's just go for it. My brethren, today I will be doing something a little different, and that is reading off a script I have prepared. For this video, I felt I needed to get everything I said correct and have everything laid out in such a way that I forgot or leave anything out. I'm sorry, I think I meant that I do not leave something out or forget it. Script. This video will consist of 2 parts. The first one will be about brotherhood, and the second about women and co-masonry. And women Freemason lodges or co-masonry lodges would be considered irregular. Clandestine would be, co-lodges I would consider clandestine and irregular, and the whatever it's called, the British female international Freemasonry, women's only, I don't know, the dress up playtime, whatever they do over there, that would be clandestine, because it's not a lodge at all. It's dress up and playtime for women, old women. I don't really understand why. You can join the Eastern Star. I don't understand why you would want to pretend to be a Freemason. I mean, honestly, you can't just form a lodge and say, hey, I'm a Freemason. And that's what they did. They didn't have permission. And when you form a lodge, I've talked about this in a different video, when you form a lodge, you have to ask permission from another Grand Lodge to form and then apply for fraternal correspondence with other lodges. This Grand Lodge for women in England does not have fraternal correspondence with Grand Lodges. They don't have it with the Grand Lodge of England. I checked. They don't have it with the Grand Lodge of California. I checked. They don't have it with the Grand Lodge of Japan. I checked on that. I couldn't find the answer on the website. I had to ask the Grand Secretary of Japan, and it took him a while, but he finally got back to me, and what he said was, no, we do not allow women in Masonry. What are you talking about? So he was a little confused why I would be asking that, but you know, that's, put a bow on that. Let's wrap that up. So let's get back to the script right now. Let's get into it and start off with brotherhood. Not all of my brothers in this great fraternity took an obligation binding himself to do. I swear I should have double-checked this. I might have to paraphrase. So now, all my brothers in this great fraternity took an obligation binding himself to many things. One such thing was to be kind to your brother. In fact, part of what you should do as a Mason is remain on the level. When you hear someone say, we're on the level, that's a Masonic phrase that is leaked into the actual public. And I don't mean, oh, it's a big secret and it's been leaked. I mean, you know, that's a Masonic term that's used quite frequently. We're on the level. We are here. You're not here above me. We're on the level. That's how brothers should act in all times. Recently, I offered my opinion on a topic on Facebook about Masonry, and because there was a few guys who may or may not have been actual brothers, again, probably clandestine or irregular, they decided they would go and attack me about my intelligence or lack thereof, in their opinion at least. And, you know, they wanted to belittle me just because we had different opinions. My opinions were backed up by facts, and I did check these facts, and even when presented with evidence of these facts, they still wanted to belittle and fight. And if someone is doing that to you, if someone is calling you out and just belittling you, making fun of you, just talking down to you, that's not a brother. I don't care if they took a regular Blue Lodge obligation. I don't care if they're a regular Blue Lodge member. If they talk to you like that, if they want to make you feel like you are nothing, they are not a brother of mine. There is no room for that in this fraternity, and there never will be. We are on the level, and we are in the square. I love all my brothers, but we need to act like we love each other. Especially on social media. It's easy to go back and forth and fight each other when you aren't actually seeing each other, when you can't shake his hand and say, hey brother, I think you need to take a breath. It gets easy to get heated, and people like to join in, and people like to argue. And that's not how this should be done. So they made fun of me for my lack thereof of education, in their opinion. I tried my best to talk to them in a calm and friendly manner until eventually I got tired of being insulted to the point of throwing in the towel. And I did, I gave up. Unfortunately, when people have a different opinion, they would rather insult and look down upon anyone with a different view. Sorry again, I'm not the best reader, obviously. This is something that as Masons, and more than that, as brothers, we need to be especially careful of. So in the rest of the video, I'd like every brother to keep this in mind. I am your brother, you are mine. If we have different opinions, let's meet on the level and talk it out. No insult, not insult one another, and bicker like children. And I know in lodge sometimes people bicker, but when I'm master of the lodge in a few years, if somebody starts fighting, the gavel goes down. There will be no room for that. We need to act like brothers. That's what I'm trying to say. It's okay to have different opinions, but we need to come at it like we're brothers, talk it out, shake hands afterwards, and agree to disagree, because whether I can change your opinion or not, or you can change mine or not, we'll still be brothers. So long as you took a regular, legally constituted Master Mason's obligation in a regular, legally constituted Master Mason's Lodge on the 3rd degree of Masonry, if you get what I'm saying. So now, let's get into the second topic of the video, which will consist of both facts and opinions. Of course, my opinions are my own opinions, shared by many brothers. However, it is mine or our opinion, and is not an opinion or opinions of any Grand Lodge. The fact that I state this video will be, the facts that I state in this video will be actual facts, but my opinions are my opinions, and though they may be shared by other brothers, they are still opinions, and I cannot speak for Masonry or any Grand Lodge. So this topic will be about female Freemasons and co-masonry. Now, what I tried to do was talk very specifically about facts. I didn't really put many opinions in here. I don't think I put any opinions in here. I know I said I did, but when I started getting into it, I just focused mostly on the facts that I could find. As a member of a regular and legally constituted Blue Lodge under the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, I do not recognize clandestine or irregular Masonry, nor do I recognize female Freemasonry or irregular Masonry in any way. In my opinion, Freemasonry is what many people would call mainstream or regular Masonry. If it is irregular, it probably is not chartered by a Grand Lodge, which is in fraternal correspondence with my Grand Lodge or any Grand Lodge we recognize, which means that it is not Masonry. One of the people trying to convince me that women can join mainstream Masonry, or as we would call it, regular and legally constituted Masonry, they sent me a link to a website which had this at the top of the page. What they tried to show me was that they did allow women, but at the very top of the page that this guy sent me was this: the Grand Lodge of British Columbia does not recognize as regular Freemasonry any self-styled body that initiates women. That said, there are several organizations calling themselves Freemasons that do initiate women. Now, what does this mean? To some people, because it says, that said, there are several organizations calling themselves Freemasons that do initiate women, what people think that might mean is they're saying, oh, there are Grand Lodges that we recognize that do allow women. That's not what it's saying. It is saying there are organizations calling themselves Freemasons. I can call myself a Prince Hall Mason, but that doesn't make it true. I'm Blue Lodge. That's just the way it is. I'm very thankful that in this state we do recognize Prince Hall Masons, because I've met a few very good ones. And I enjoy talking to them. I've never visited a lodge. Hopefully I will before too long. But, sorry, I feel like my southernness is coming out. But what they're saying is they do not recognize female Freemasonry, which means that none of the Grand Lodges that they recognizes female Freemasonry. And they're saying that there are organizations calling themselves Freemasons that are not Freemasons, but they are calling themselves that, and they do initiate women. That's fine, that's all well and good, but as this page was saying, that was made by the Grand Lodge of British Columbia on their own website. They are plainly saying they do not allow women and they do not